Welcome to the fourth episode of Series 89, everyone. This month we have returning guest Pete Petrusha to learn about the game he is designing called Ghost in the Shell, a forged-in-the-dark cyberpunk RPG set in the world of Ghost in the Shell. In today's episode, we learned a bit more about Pete before talking about the importance of character sheet design, as well as how to design for a cyberpunk game to set it apart from others in the genre. But before we get to that, we do have some calls to action coming up after the show. Here's what to expect. You can join me here after the show for an announcement about a quick break that we are planning to take for the month of December, as well as to get the latest info on where the Ghost in the Shell Kickstarter is sitting at right now, as well as information about our Patreon, how to leave a review for the show, and our patron thank yous as usual. With all of that out of the way, enjoy the show, everyone.
Welcome back to our discussion episodes. Last time we finished our session 0 for Ghost in the Shell characters. This episode, we will be discussing the character creation process and whatever other questions I feel like asking because I go off script a lot. We are excited to welcome back Pete Petrusha from Imagining Games. Do you want to reintroduce yourself for everyone and then tell us about the character you made in our last episode?
Yeah, sure. So, gosh, I want to start with the end before the first, but let's get the procedural out of the way.
Yeah.
I'm Pete Petrusha of Imagining Games. I am the game designer for Ghost in the Shell. Me and my buddy John Smichael put that together for Mana Project Studios, who is the publisher, in partnership with Don't Panic Games. So
there's so many hands in this one.
Now we got the legalities out of the way. I made a Logicoma called Dunk that is black and white with graffiti on it and has this special memory of slam dunking a basketball and seems to be growing a little more personality than the higher ups are happy with for any Logicoma. And if it wasn't for their connection with this group, this special authority unit, anti-terrorism, public security, Section 9, I probably would have been wiped by now and sent back into the rows of Logicoma, or Tachikoma if you prefer. But for now, I have this level of autonomy. I have a signature grappling hook that I'm known for, which is just like a spider web I shoot out, just these cables. For those that may be listening and didn't catch the Ghost in the Shell, a Logicoma is like a spider tank. So I'm like a little spider tank, like the size of like a really tiny electric car. And I have the ability to go thermal optic camouflage. And that's pretty much me. I'm a protector. I have abilities to help shield the others with my body.
I'm very partial to your character. I already I'm feeling very protective of
of Dunk, who takes the bullets, right?
Yes.
So that's got to hurt every time.
Yeah.
It's got to be. It'd be great if you get little transmissions that are like, ooh, a little more to the right. Ow, ow, no, too much. Just the bullets bouncing off till there's heavy guns,
Oh, no. Ryan, please tell us about your character.
Yes, so my character is named Lila. She goes by Phantom of the North, which she gets ribbed by her teammates on as too long of a code name often. She is the wizard hacker of the group, wears a signature white duster that goes down to her knees in the back, flows and billows in the wind dramatically with her big 90s hair and glasses. She is kind of a combo hacker and social hacker, so to speak. So she uses her abilities to try to convince her way into places and using her technical know-how to do the hacking once she is in. She has, let's see. Oh, yeah. And then she also has the ability to do like flashbacks to during a mission, once a mission to like give us an oomph if we happen to get ambushed and try to get out of that with that's not how I remember it. Amelia, tell us about your character.
Sure. Big name reveal, everyone. No, I made the special investigator named Liberty Weston.
Nice. That's a good one.
Thank you. I'm very, very excited about it. She, they pronouns. I have a magnifying glass that is purely because I wanted to be able to say enhance. So my magnifying glass can zoom in on lots of things, very far, very fine details. She kind of has this appearance of being constantly a little bit disheveled and overcaffeinated, but she's there to do the work. So I tried to kind of pick traits and abilities that really focused on investigative skills. So, recon, being able to get mission clues and ask follow-up questions and things like that.
You always got a hunch.
Yes, exactly. And then my signature action, I went with command, which I already had from my character type too. So, people have to listen to me. I'm good at what I do.
Mm-hmm. I hear your name coming out a lot, like in third person. And I'm Liberty Western.
Yep.
That's so good.
And I mean, it's worth mentioning, Ryan, like my Logicoma, like programming wise, would have to say your full title. So we would probably have a good relationship because other people would be like, shut up and just tell me what you're going to say, Logicoma. Because like, don't stop. Because it's like Phantom of the North was doing this. Phantom of the North was doing that.
Oh my gosh.
Phantom of the North did.
Can we please reprogram it so we can at least have initials and make it an acronym?
Yeah. Well, the best part, right, that you could, you're like, you must now refer to him as the acronym. or her, I'm sorry, because Lila. Yeah. That'd be even more annoying. P-O-T-N.
The operative formerly known as Phantom of the North.
No, stop it. That's even longer. Dunk, we don't have time.
Yeah.
I know. Everybody else has like these really quick, snappy dates.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, so good. Well, let's go ahead and dive right into a segment that we are calling D20 for your thoughts.
D20 for your thoughts?
So in this segment, we like to talk to our guests about your thoughts on the character creation process, how it relates to this system, to other systems that you've played or worked on. But first, this is actually the first time you've been with us for a full series. So we get to ask you the most generic question of all tabletop RPG podcasting. How did you get here? How did it come to this, Pete?
Yeah. I probably found a way to, if we've had 2 other episodes, I'm sure I found a way to shoehorn this in without asking you. But
yeah.
I mean, I don't know how much this will relate, but I have a feeling it'll relate, at least to people of similar age. Is that like in the 90s, like I loved role-playing games. I played all kinds of tabletop games. I was lucky to like live by a game store where I had a lot of friends and I'd go there every day after school back when we did stuff like have hangouts.
Yeah.
And it started with Magic the Gathering, but it got me in the game store and people weren't always there to play Magic, but they might be like Monday was D&D night or something. And that was just a matter of like 3 tables in the back of the room. So like, I was 2 tables across. So there could be times I'm just there making a new deck because nobody's here yet. And the group could be like, hey, the fighter had to leave. And I always love picking on them for that because like they didn't role play. They played characters like classes. It was like, the fighter had to go. Could you be the fighter? And then I would be one of these really obnoxious kids like in the next year or so who'd be like, tell me what my character's motivation is. Why would I go on this quest? I have no reason to go. And they would like hog tie me. So I later learned the errors of my ways, even if I had a point, was that it is a group thing, and it's about our fun. And if you don't suspend some disbelief, you are the problem. But, but I think back in horror on some of those memories. But
yeah, we all learn. We all have horrible thoughts about like who we were in middle school too, though. Like, I don't know that anybody looks back on that time in their life. I don't think anybody should look back on that time in their life and be like, I always made good decisions. It was super fun to be around. Like, and that's growth.
So I had a luxury of a lot of games coming through. You know, we weren't just like the D&D group, because it'd be like, hey, what's that samurai game on the shelf? Oh, look, it's like Cowboys. And then it became like a hub that, like, if my gaming group was the people at the game store, that like other people were like, well, hey, if I bought that, would you play it? Like Mutant Chronicles or whatever. And before you know it, like that store had like a game night of the week. And we were all claiming who GM'd what day. And I remember like mine was Fantastic Wednesdays, because if like there was like Supersonic Tuesday, and there was all these dumb names, but it was just the point of like people must claim days, because before you know it, we had more GMs than we had, you know, days of the week. You know, after school activity, you can only really have one game a night, right?
Yeah.
Because they close at 8. After school is probably 4 something, and you really playing like 5 to 8, but with food in there. So
Yeah.
Long story short, that just led me to like, I had a lot of lifelong friends that were in this sphere. What are my in and outs of good and bad in school led me to like this safe place where gaming skills and things like let me be creative and feel good about it. Like I was good at this, and directing players and building stories and making worlds that like people wanted to stay up till the middle of the night to play or come to an overnight, or, you know, so I really think that's just so valuable, because a lot of times you don't find something that other people give you that much back that say like, no, you're good at this. Like, you need to keep going.
Yeah, especially as a kid.
And even role-playing games, like you don't need them to say it. Like, because you can tell, because we all just have a blast and people can't get enough of playing, right? And you really create that in so many ways, unless you're going out of a module. So I really piggyback all the way back to that point of like that, how much that was influential and that meant something. And then like later in life, after college and career starts and stuff, I was like, what is me? How do I give back to something that's me? Like, where should I be doing these things now that I'm like in a good place? And it brought me back to role-playing games. So that's a lot of people have reasons why they disappear and they come back. And I just kind of wanted to give something to it, leave it a little better than it came to me, you know, as was the goal. And then I just luckily have been fortunate enough to keep it going. Like, you know, that I keep finding more things I want to make and more innovations. And so far, people are giving me enough money that it keeps going. So, and the community in the space has helped me so much. And I try to do the same for as many people as I can, because again, right, like we all are products of somebody who was holding a hand down to help us up. And then hopefully we're just continuing the chain, right? Like we're all building people at a, not necessarily replace us, but, you know, take our space as we all kind of move through the process of wherever our design or game journeys take us. So
it's to pass the mantle, right?
Yeah.
When did you kind of make the jump to designing things? Was that sort of like after that, like when you came back to it as a designer, or?
Yeah, but I mean, you know, this is where it gets out of that chalky, right? I mean, like, I really was making homebrews from the first time I was running games. So I never, you know, I was probably because of adolescence and reading, like not wanting to read, you know, like that. It led myself to be like, I'm going to make this adventure about this. This is a story I want to tell. And then having good players who would then really run with things. And then you start finding like there's a mix of how much you're preparing versus how much you're running with them. And I think some of those elements, it's neat to see how they've become much more of what role playing is today than they were like in the 90s, you know, that it's not the, this is my story that I have for you. I don't care what your character name is or what classes you are. This is the adventure. It's a dungeon crawl. And these are the characters you're going to face if we roll or walk these paths. You know, it was like this it led me to we find our fun and we have a great time playing pretend with our friends, you know, in the eye of the mind's eye. And that stories can really be about anything if we can really just like forget where we are for a few hours and really explore places and characters. And like at the end of the day, it's just those moments like when you can get really immersive and forget like where you are and care about your character death or the risks or have that. I mean, that's the stuff that like you go home dreaming about, you know, like
those are the things that you remember years later and you're still like, oh, man, that was so good. Yeah.
Or I was so cool, because this is living vicariously through all these characters. And even as a game master, there's so many times that like, because you had something to do with the scenes that the players had, you still get that energy of like, man, I was on it. And then we had this Halloween game and we were up till 4 and we all went out. Back then I smoked, and it was like, we went out and we're smoking because we're all like, we're super creeped out of how quiet it is at 4 o'clock in the morning after the scene that we just had in whatever game. So I think part of it is also I was never afraid of like just making the stuff, and then that led me to just being the norm.
Yeah.
And then we played a lot of different games, so I never was like. It's funny now. I rely on modules a lot more of things than I did ever. Like I never would read adventures or do these things. Like I might steal a monster block or something,
Right.
But
Right.
yeah. So when I came back, I was really more like mid-30s. When I was kind of like getting back in. Google Plus was pretty prominent still. It was like the tail end of it. So it was neat to kind of see communities where I was like, oh, I could just like live in this D&D, like not D&D, because it really was nothing but everything but D&D, role playing space. And it really brought me into like the indie story movement of the 2000s that I'd kind of missed, So,
Okay.
but it was neat because like people like Jason Morningstar and Fred Hicks and Mark Diaz-Truman were all like hot indie designers that had like, they weren't like making big bucks or like the biggest things in the world, but like to me in my little world they were, and they were so available, and like, you could reach out to them. And then I started going to conventions and things just to like, I don't know, I've been going to Gen Con since like 99 because I live in Indiana. So 99 was like the last one in Milwaukee, and I was like a teenager. So it's always been like a little easier for me to go. I have a friend that was by. So when I had no money, I could have like $200 or $300 for the weekend and go sleep there every night. Just bring like granola bars and water and like play games, right?
Yeah. A friend that lives in Indianapolis is the way to do Gen Con. Now that I know, like I stopped going when my friend moved out of Indianapolis. Like I'm like, I can't afford to do this anymore. It's not as much fun when it's thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
Like,
especially if you're really stuck with no advantages. But long story short, it was just so I think the convention scene was always in my blood. Like it had always been normalized. So I always went to Gen Con. Eventually, I was like, I should go do this Origins thing, especially if I like want to make a game or something. Yeah. And that led me to the opportunity where I could like not just network, because that came a time because imposter syndrome hits us all. Is really I was able to go like do panels and like seminars, because like there's a few at Gen Con there's more now than there used to be, but there would be a few here, a few at Origins, a few, and then I would just go sit in all those rooms and ask some questions. And then that led me to like Metatopia. That's a design festival in New Jersey. That's a great show, especially for like learning stuff. And you go there and you go like in 30 panels in 3 days. Like, I mean, you leave, and if you take notes and you actually want to make something, you're like, you get a lot out of it. So yeah, but I mean, I credit a lot of that and podcasts. I tell you too, and it's not pandering. Like I just used to listen to a lot of podcasts, and in the 2010s, there was a lot of great interview shows and longer standing shows that were even like a group talking about new games and stuff. And I could just kind of eat all that up too. So, when you can really just like, and my son's 7. So it was also like pre my 7-year-old, I started later. So, so that's part of it too, is that I had that time. Because once the kiddo comes, like a lot of that is just it's their time now. Right?
It's crazy how something so small takes up so much of your energy. Like it's exhausting.
Yeah. So
in
it's
a
been
good
really,
way.
and once you make your first game, I tell designers all the time, like your second, your third game, these are easy, and I mean easy, and then like not making it, but like the first one, people are always like, how do I know which one's the one I make? And I'm like, that one's the only one's questionable. After the first one, it's the one you can't stop thinking about, because you're still working. You're always working on something else. You never get like done and go, oh, now what do I do? Like you've been like for a year now, still working on like getting this thing sold, selling it to people, running games, getting people to run games for you. All the post publication stuff. And what's the one that you just can't keep thinking about, looking over the shoulder, like wishing you could be running that game, Yeah. And that leads to like Rest in Pieces and Chew, and and we have a handful of games now that like because of Chew have been like next year and the year after, there's a bunch of titles we have. So we'll see how slam crunch that gets, or if there's only so much we said this in the last session though. There's something about like giving space, because like too much at any one time is really not helpful for anyone.
Yeah. So. Yeah, it's hard to like find that balance of like I have so many like cool projects that I want to work on and do, but like how much time do I personally have, and like can I commit to doing those things and doing them well, and like
and the energy,
giving everything the attention that it deserves, and it's hard.
Absolutely.
And that's another one. People come to you and they'll say things like, well, why don't you make a D&D thing, or haven't you tried DM's Guild? And it's like, that's the only thing I don't want to do. And this sort of like industry background hobby thing, or, however you look at it, like that's the one thing you don't do is like you don't talk about stuff that you don't care about. And you
Mm-hmm.
sure as heck don't design anything that
No.
like you don't care about, because
Mm-hmm.
like I was just saying, after it's done, it's never done.
Mhm.
Because like,
Yeah.
who's going to sell the thing if it's not you? And even if
Mm-hmm.
stores and everyone else, you got to sell them on it for them to
Mhm.
sell it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's still that's like a love and energy and passion that has to continue well past all the work, which, all
Yeah.
starts to eat away at that like desire of the thing, So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. 'cause
Yeah, this is
people,
definitely an industry where like you're not making enough money to do something just for the money. Like you're not.
No.
You need to really be passionate and care about it, because like
Mm-hmm.
otherwise it's not going to be worth it. Like that's just burnout waiting to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially, I mean, like, then you get stuff like Ghost in the Shell that like pops up, and it was not like I was like, oh, I want to make Ghost in the Shell. But then
Mhm.
like you get opportunities and you go, I want to do that,
Yeah.
But it's a
Mhm.
whole, there are levels and layers to it all. But like the things that you can choose to set out to go do, yeah,
Right. Yeah.
you pick the thing you want to do the most.
Exactly. Well, Pete, our next get to know you question, what is your favorite character creation mechanic that you like to see in any given system?
Yeah, so this is so hard. And I think part of it is like game designers are critics.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
we're like the if you saw the reviews, the Metacritic for us, it'd be like all over the place, and we'd like the stuff that's weird that no one else likes, They're like, I've heard lately a bunch of people bring it up, like the dying character creation stuff. I think that's either in His Majesty the Worm, but it was like famous in Traveler,
Yeah.
like a career life path thing, but you could die in character creation.
Right.
But, and then the game designer is like, that's amazing, because it's like you don't get that every day. And then other people are like, yeah, but you could die. And I'm like, yeah, and you could ignore the role and keep going, because like you don't have to do it what it says.
Mhm.
They're not there, But
Yeah. That's the beauty of
so-
role playing games, is like there's nobody standing behind you saying you can't do
Yeah.
that.
Mhm.
So there are a handful of things, and we did that panel at Gamehole, and I was telling you that like some things, it's funny because mechanics can be another thing. It's a hoity-toity, like that's not really a mechanic, but like anything that is like actually helping a thing do a thing, like it's a mechanical thing that's propping this up or moving in the right direction, it's
Mhm.
kind of a mechanic. So I mean, things like we have Forged in the Dark, like the pre-filled character sheets, the whole Powered by the Apocalypse, Forged in the Dark movement, like it's funny to think about like before that, because before that was like all these blank lines and I had to write all of that
Yep.
out.
Mm-hmm.
16 skills, all these abilities, and that made character creation a chore.
Yeah.
And it also made it that I need the book and I got to flip through the pages to find all this stuff to put it on my sheet. And we might only play one time. So that's a very basic one. But, as you saw in most of my games, I like character creation instructions on the sheet if possible. Can't always do it. But if you can, don't make players open up the book unless they want to like enjoy it. Right.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
It
if you
reminds
can
me
make
of
it so they don't.
a question that we used to ask when we first started, was like, when we had, GMs or designers on, it was like, how do you make NPCs? Because I just remember like at one point, my ex-husband at the time, husband at the time, whatever, was running 4th edition Legend of the Five Rings for us. And the only way to make NPCs in that game is to just make characters.
I know.
And so like I had so much of the book memorized, because I was just like, he's like, I need like 10 people to do this. And I'm like, okay. So I'm like over there like hand making characters, and so that's why I think about like how far we've come in making your own PCs, much less NPCs. It's like at one point we were just handwriting full characters for those games too, that we were never going to touch those characters even.
Exactly.
I think my answer should be world building. Like, because obviously I do really enjoy that when we get to like make the world and then we go play in it, like in whatever way they let me do that. But that's so many games. And again, just a whole like thing that's become somewhat normalized depending on what kind of games you like.
Yeah.
Sure.
So this led me to the number one answer, which is I like when your characters, and I never make games like this, but like when you roll your appearance. Because some games, that makes the game. Like we roll the random appearance table of like what my character looks like, and then we remake the characters in the mold of whatever BS that just kind of set up the whole the game for.
Sure.
Yeah.
So one of my guys, Aries Marks, is making a roguelike RPG, and we've been running at conventions for a while. But like, we had a game where we play tested it, and like 3 people rolled. Of course, this is a problem, like the same thing almost. And we had like a little hero mask, and we were skeletons. And and then one of us was like a Greek god. And then something else happened, and it was like clearly because we all died to save them because it's a roguelike where you keep coming back.
Yeah.
So it built the whole party dynamic in just rolling on the one table. So I think sometimes, again, not for a lot of, I don't do this in any of my games, don't do it for a lot. But when you get that, sometimes it is hilarious, and it really just sings and takes it all in one direction. And it's amazing how just a table can do so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, like, we're huge proponents of that. We love rolling on random tables. But like it's always fascinating to me how introducing just that little touch of randomness can sometimes completely change how everything works out. Because all of a sudden you're like, well, now I have to draw connections between these things that like, you know, came out of nowhere. And it creates, you know, story beats and connections and relationships and things that like, you know, you never would have come up with by just deciding those things on your own. And it forces you to kind of challenge what you had in mind sometimes too. Like, this is the kind of character that I normally play, but when we start randomly rolling things, I end up with something completely offbeat to what I would normally do. And it's like, okay, what do I do with this? How do I still make it my own? And,
it's kind of better in the beginning than it is at the end of the character, because then it's got to fit by the end, but in the beginning it can really mold the rest, you know, like set you on a path. Yeah, because I think that's like the first or second thing we do in that game. So that's really, it becomes the guiding force in an unintentional random sort of way. Because it's kind of a retro look to the characters. You know, it's like an 8-bit, like, you know, sort of Dungeon Warrior like look to it or something. Dragon Warrior, not Dungeon, but you know. So in that way, that, you know, that means so much. But
yeah, I don't know. I like it. I think it's like always an like mental challenge to kind of be like, okay, now how do I make this into something that makes sense? And some of the stuff that comes out of it is truly amazing.
Yeah.
And, you know, pushes the envelope in ways that you never would have done by yourself.
Especially, and that's a great point, is sometimes it pushes you outside of your box. And a lot of players actually do want to do something different or go out of their box. They just are in their box. Like they don't, you know, so something just can nudge them to go. It's just something that makes them not be the fighter every time, or not be the one who uses the axe or the dwarf or the, you know, the muscle or.
Yeah.
I don't talk very good, but this character's got these sunglasses and it says they're cool shades and I get a benefit. Everyone already thinks whatever I say is cool. Let's test that out.
I think stuff like that it kind of goes back into that thought about, you know, design and like what is a mechanic and stuff too, of like, there are so many times where there are things that like, it never would have even occurred to me that you could do that, you know? And so I think sometimes introducing randomness adds that to like, oh, it wouldn't have even occurred to me to like make this character like low intelligence, but also everything I say sounds cool. You know, like, you know, like I have no charisma, but
like,
it sounds
that?
Like,
that's really funny.
And that's like, not a character that I would have made on my own because it's not how things normally work. And I love
you stutter and say duh, and then the whole class or whatever environment you're in, they're all walking around and be like duh, like it's the coolest thing they ever have.
Exactly.
You're just a meme machine.
You're
at
a
that
trendsetter.
point.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah. I love things that sort of challenge your preconceived notions of like what you can do with a character, what you can do in a game, what even is a game, you know, things like that. I think that's a really interesting thing that comes out of, you know, the fact that now we have more and more people making indie games and designing, you know, for themselves and just like, what do I want to see in a game? And so many more mechanics
you get, like,
that are
Slug
like
Blaster, right? You just start getting games that are like everything. Badger and Coyote, I think. You know, you're a badger and you're a cat. Bunny Borg, you know?
Right. There's so many things that you're like, is that a game? And it's like, well, somebody made it a game, so now it is, because someone out there was like, wouldn't it be fun if, you know, like,
I remember
I guess you can do that.
I had a game called Beach Patrol that trying to remember. Gosh, it's a deep pull from the Tiny Games company, Gallant Games, I think, or Gallant Gallant Knight, maybe.
Gallant Knight games.
It-
Yeah, I think
it's
that's the name.
literally like Baywatch. And it's like I was like trying to get the groups of people to play it for a long period of time. I was like, "Come on, guys, we got to play this Beach Patrol." I just couldn't get anyone to play it, but it was like like a rules light, not even like too mechanic focused on anything about like,
Right.
being lifeguards. But it was just like there's just a game for everybody. I got a
Yeah.
game called
Yep.
Chum that Exalted Funeral has Jaws. Like
Mhm.
again, couldn't get anyone to play that either, but I wanted to just because if you're enjoying it, there is so many games for every little slice,
Yeah, there's
Go
so
find
many
that game.
niche like out there that you're like, this is, this one, it does this one particular thing really well. And you're like, somebody
Yeah.
out there wants to do that one particular thing though, and that's very cool. Even if you're the only one that does, just that
just, like,
challenge of like, can I?
If sharks are triggering, I get why you don't want to play Jaws. But in my head, it's like, who wouldn't want to play Jaws?
Mhm.
Like, not forever, but like for a session or two, like
Yeah.
that could just be a great game.
Yeah, like New Year's
so-
Eve, I'm having people over and we've got nothing else to do. Yeah, why not?
I'm sure,
not?
there's levels of horror or like drowning or something. Maybe people don't want to explore. I get that.
Mhm.
But like, outside of that, I'm like, there's some fun there that like I don't get anywhere else.
Yeah.
So
Exactly. One thing I want to talk about is the kind of character sheet layout. We actually talked a fair bit about it when we were doing our character creation, which is not something that we usually get to do. But I want to talk about like the decision for, how things are laid out on the character sheet, the sort of, right side and left side of Ghost and Shell and that kind of stuff, like why you made those decisions, why you did it the way you did, what you're hoping people get out of that.
yeah. I think that's the key word in that podcast. I hope people get out was I probably said identity more than anything. And that's just it, is that at its core in cyberpunk, in the genre, Ghost in the Shell is like at this level of like metaphysical, this level of philosophy, this level of like deeper introspection. And in some story games, like mentioned, that have things like flashbacks, it's for that reason. There are some stories that are told that we want some kind of way to get players to think about, like, how did you get here? Like, not you, the player, like the character, which some players are just trying to get, like, have a character personality.
Right.
But, like, if you want an immersive experience, you have these moments where you forget you're your character for a minute and you're, like, there, right? Like, you see it all. And that's what you're hoping for. So there's a layer to that Ghost in the Shell has, or that I hope that it has, that experience on people, that is kind of one of those slices I was saying that I don't see in a lot of cyberpunk. Like, it just doesn't either land, or it's like such an afterthought that it's not inherent to the gameplay, that like some form of like reflection or inflection or introspectiveness, or even like, Shadowrun's got a great essence system, just in the way that like it's cool that everything has a cost and it breaks down and humanity is being reduced, but like as a concept, So, but that doesn't necessarily make people grapple with it.
Yeah.
Cyberpunk, it's really awesome how they have like the whole cyber psychosis. At least they gave us a trigger. They gave us a problem. They gave us something, the repercussion, which, not that the other one doesn't, but it's like just an obvious red flag, right? It's just something you could wave. So like good magic systems, they're only as good as they have some counterbalance cost, right? Magic and story cost something. Like, you grow older if you fumble the spell. These things just make it so much more not effective, but just at the table, like they allow us to, they take us places, because then we hurt when it goes poorly, and we hurt for our friends that spent that cost to save us,
Yeah.
And that just, and obviously all these feels are ways that we hook players into playing, but also to have richer, deeper experiences, just like a good movie. A good movie just takes you in, sucks you in. So we're trying to do that at the table. So that's a long, long way of just going down a tangent. The character sheet, I'm so happy that like it really, that might be like one of the best contributions, which is how quickly some of that stuff took hold. And sometimes some of the genius stuff that happens in games is like just happens, and then some of it is like, oh, we
we've
worked
iterated and iterated, and
yeah.
this is version 12.2 final dot, really final dot, actually for real this time final.
I was like, it helps that I'm product oriented as a publisher.
Yeah.
So I think about things of like, what's this going to look like? What would be most effective for the game design and player UI? But then also like, what can I sell and how can I sell it? And how's it going to look, and table presence, and so it helps, because I was like, I kept seeing cyberbrain pictures, all this research and because
Yeah.
beyond watching all this stuff, you're reading Reddit and you're reading all kinds of people's, and sometimes I post in arguments that I don't chat, but I post up stuff and I find there's arguments that have already been had, and I read both sides, and because there's parts where there's like narrative convenience in all of the Ghost in the Shell stuff, that I'm like, well, is that narrative convenience or did I miss something? And you're like, no, usually it's like a narrative convenience, right? To help the story they were trying to tell at that point, and then later they needed to go a little the other way.
Mm-hmm.
So I couldn't find a cyberbrain that you could see left side, right side. That was the biggest issue that happened with that, is I was like already in this mind of the duality, the man versus machine, which kind of had this mind versus physical. That all just kind of developed pretty easily. In early takes of the design, when I was really looking at the heart of the mechanics of building beyond Forge in the Dark, like of what I could, how I could put things on. And I just couldn't get that head. Like I knew, like all the images you Google everywhere, like the side shot of it. And I was like, so, but what's really funny is I obviously working with John back and forth. So John, we would have like, weekly or monthly calls or whatever, depending on what point of the process we were at. And I'd be like, hey, and so I sent it to John. I didn't know John had any artistic ability at all. John basically just sketched and like scanned it in, and then like, in some paint or something, like just made it fine. It's like, this is incredible. So it's cool because John actually gave us that thing. And then of course we sent it to Mana Project later, and everybody there is a graphic designer. So it was like they, made it even nicer or whatever. But largely it was like, I got this idea and it'd be so good. And on the sheet, and I didn't know if I could like really balance everything and really column it. That just worked out. Right.
Yeah.
Like, but originally it was like, you started with the brain, and I was like, okay, all the Forge and Dark games have like actions or attributed attributes because that's such a general audience game. Right. But finding what fit. And then it was like, what if I call them like wires? What if you like plug in the actions?
Yeah.
What if you could have more actions? Well, wait, if you get a new shell, what if your shell is like a construction thing and it's got a fork arm, and like you could have a new action called like demolish, or this, and there was like all these thoughts that just branched out literally from the visual and the thought of it, and then knowing like how visually that could be so compelling and interesting.
Yeah,
and
it's really evocative when you pull up that sheet, like even when it's blank and you've done nothing yet, to just like have this very like clear of like, this is, like a brain, this is mechanical, this is, like it really does kind of give you just from that one visual right in the center of the sheet of like, oh, okay, I can see what the opposing forces are here.
And they did a cool thing, and when they split it, they kind of made it like one looks more of a brain and one looks more of like a casing, So that kind of helps.
Yeah.
And but until this quick start, it was always a landscape. So I don't know. I'm gonna keep fighting for that, but we'll see if that lands. And I get why, because like this looks better. Portrait looks better in a book. You can print it out,
right?
But it may maybe even worst case if I can get them to be like, well, everyone like attaches the extra document later. Maybe we could attach the landscape. We'll see, because I know then I'm going to ask them for like 6 to 8 playbook sheets in the orientation.
Right.
So we'll see what they want to do, but
it's because it's interesting because like my first thought when I saw it was like the classic creative brain versus logic brain. Right
brain, left brain.
Right brain, left brain. That's like hugely ingrained into society. So it's like right away you've got this like massive societal like knowledge of left brain, right brain. I know that
they're
concept.
Different,
Humanity, machine. Creativity,
mental,
logic.
Physical. Yeah, you just keep layering the stuff, and it's like they see the duality, and it reinforces the duality, like the binary.
Exactly.
Like you're one or the other, which the game is constantly, hopefully, going to question. At least in the design. I mean, obviously, like day-to-day play, like when you're if you're like, oh, it's session 6, 7, 8, and 9, there's going to be moments, but a lot of the play then is intrigue and counterterrorism.
For sure.
Stuff.
But that overarching like kind of concept of like, what does it mean to be human, and
the memories,
what is continuity of memory,
shells.
and
all these things will keep reinvigorating that whole idea and the balance, and they'll mess up the balance, So,
absolutely,
all cyberpunk games, I shouldn't say all, but that I know of or think of, and a lot of sci-fi games, they have a lot more of a point-by character creation process, a lot of things to alter and tweak. So I wanted some element of that without overdoing it.
Yeah.
So I hope that came across. You're like, oh, there's some more options, but I never felt like I had like, oh my gosh, what am I? The playbook abilities or the enhancements were going to be the ones that maybe you look at the longest. But
Yeah.
Right. That's very interesting.
but you wanted to tap. That's what those players from those places are going to be like. Well,
Yeah.
oh, it's a story game or Forza the Dark game. It's not going to have that. And you're like, check it out, guys. It's pretty cool. You know, they're like, oh, wow, look at that. And when like we didn't talk about a lot of the like, who is my character dynamic kind of gets in there at the tail end, but it actually does a lot by the end of it. So
Yeah.
And I do like how what on the character sheet, it feels like a 90s anime hologram.
Yeah.
Like it feels like it should be flickering at me, and like the line should be extending out towards the little dots in animation. And
that whole blue, you know, even when I flip through the quick start, it's impressive how much they do with just one color.
Yeah.
You know, because they drop all those full color images from the show constantly. And I think that gives them the contrast they need. Otherwise, it'd be like a little bland, right? Because it's just a flat blue and then the text on the white. But with the full color images, it really brings it all together. Because they have a lot of blue on the sheets, like in the bordering and the framing, and then like on the character sheet. But it never makes me go like this is bland or drab or any of those. So.
Right.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think like a careful use of detail is something that, like, I think we often underestimate, you know, how much stuff like having little things around the page numbers in the corners of the books, or, you know, like the little filigrees on pages and things like that, like how much that can contribute to like the vibes. I don't know. I feel like the vibes is not like enough of a word, but just the importance of like graphic design and layout. And, you know, I think that's a thing that probably our listeners have noticed that I've been harping on more and more over the last few years as I've read more and more games and looked at more and more books.
Yep.
And, you know, it is my nitpick with Morkborg is that like there's more to that game than fonts, you know, and fonts need to be readable. But like just how much those little details can really add to our understanding of like what the genre of the game is, or what, you know, what kind of feelings you're supposed to have about it. And, you know,
right.
The little details matter.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's neat. It's really neat. Like I just pulled it up on my pad to kind of look at, you know, just it's interesting the borders and the, you know, the layout, because like even on a character sheet, like that's what most people see when they play your game. Like,
that's the first interaction the majority of people will have with the game, because, you know, it's like when you run the game, you have the book and everything. But a lot of times as players, you're sitting down and you're sort of trusting that your GM knows what's going on. And, you know, you have not read through the whole book. So like, I think that's the first sort of like face-to-face interaction a lot of people have with games.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
You know, the character sheet can really tell you a lot about the game itself and where the priorities are, and, you know, what information you're going to need and that kind of stuff too. And this one I really like having that like kind of big visual right in the center that is like still useful, right? Because you do have, you know, kind of the lines coming out of it and everything, but like having a visual itself to cue like this is, you know, I said right away, it tells you like, oh, the central conflict of this is, you know, like sort of that like man versus machine kind of like what is, you know, and that's all done just like in one image on a character sheet.
You're making me think it's like if I had my fingers in it deep enough of like maybe I would like really like you know, crank up the opacity and have little words like in the background, like in big thick fonts that are like man and machine, you know, just so that if you really stared at it, you'd see in the back even like the little like almost bubbles of thoughts that are like, you know, natural versus unnatural or inorganic versus organic, just because it's just all of these things that in every way you look at it. Now versus tomorrow, the night versus the train, you know, like the
Absolutely.
It's neat because it's a Forza in the Dark game. It's a little crunchier than Forza in the Dark games, but that's by design too, because I think that a lot of cyberpunk audiences are going to want that, and they're actually going to they would be like, I was hoping for something, you know, had a little more grit or combat, and so there are elements in that with that in mind, you know, but like at the same point, not going so far to lose anybody.
I made a note because that's actually a thing I want to talk about. And I know, Ryan, like you're technically supposed to ask the next question, but my question kind of like wraps up in that. Like,
that's fine.
You know, the next question we have is like, how do you think it stacks up to other games you played? But in particular, I want to ask about how do you kind of like design knowing that traditionally cyberpunk games have had this kind of one kind of audience, and knowing that like Forged in the Dark has another kind of audience, and like how do you design trying to like make both those people happy, and what things do you know you have to keep and change and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So, I mean, it helps a lot. One, being a person who, I probably fit that bill, right? So that helps a lot that I kind of like all the games I love are over here, but I came out of like this thick tradition of like, well, my first game was Shadowrun 2nd Edition. So I ate up all the Shadowrun for a long time. And of course, then I played Cyberpunk and some of the alternatives. And there are so many great cyberpunk games that I think of, like Tech Noir, that like don't get mentioned, but I can't always think of them when I want to, to like throw out the names. But there are a lot of gems. Like there's like I'm gonna mess it up. It's like Hard City Blues, but there are so many great games that have done a lot of things. And I mentioned the Sprawl just because the Sprawl was like the Powered by the Apocalypse, and Forged in the Dark has like a Runners in the Dark that I don't think's been published, but it's like an itch game. It's like hoping for a full-fledged, but it may have. I could have missed it, so it's neat to see, because most of us who come from like Shadowrun and Cyberpunk have been saying forever, especially Shadowrun people, like, how do we do this but like much lighter? That's been the thing forever. Like, and my favorite for the longest period of time was probably like a Savage Worlds hack, right? And it just kind of gamey enough that kind of hits all the bases, still feel good about it all, but gives enough narrative permission that it takes over. So in that vein, you could see a lot of like what I had hoped this would be. And that like it needs to have enough action, it needs to have enough character build, needs to have, but sci-fi people and cyberpunk people, I'm hoping that what I capture is I get you on the reasons why you like that fiction, right? Like, when you start to be like, cool, I can in the full game make this character and I can put outdated cyberware in my body, but that means that I also have an outdated cyber brain, which is no longer being patched, which means things like my face is like I have a skeletal head that's not mine anymore. And the face is just a little plate that can be replaced. Well, when I lose that, I'm going to have somebody make me a new faceplate. Like that's who I am. And cool, maybe you'll lose more humanity, more natural reasons, but it's neat to like have these builds where like, cool, you can be more powerful, right? Powerful in the beginning, like of you have more shell and abilities, but like this character is a tortured character the rest of the game. Like
at
this
what
is an ongoing thing.
cost?
And so it's neat in the fuller experience to go down these roads of like when either one goes too far and what that means and how there's not really the grass is greener and not really the reason. These are conflicting choices of gray is always where it is, right? And to try to drive home reasons that'll make people have moments, even if it's not mechanically rewarded, where they go, wait, I was just really thinking a lot about that, of what this means for my character. And that's what you hope for, is that they'll find these big questions. And while they go on missions that deal with it and maybe like create somewhat of answers, it's all up to interpretation, and that they'll feel like they made a difference, but probably make them feel like they made a difference, but then not, right? Like you'll change what happened and that'll affect society, but you won't change the thought, and the thought will go on and someone else will pick up that thought and be the villain again or do whatever it is again, and your answer is like, and we'll be there again to stop them, or like whatever it is, right?
Yep.
But
so kind of like banking on people, being able to get like what they want out of the genre still, even if it isn't.
You're
the same
hoping
sort
that
of,
you
like,
kind of make a love letter to the
crunchy.
genre,
Yeah.
and not just the genre, but like the Ghost in the Shell slice of the genre,
Right?
Which it's been interesting because when I talked to other designers about it, it's one of those things where I always kind of throw at them that I didn't expect. Was just like I just didn't think of like how the tech level would be so kind of like a slice of what I expected it to be. That all the cyberpunk stuff that we know of today, like full body replacement, and I look like, a giant dragon and all kinds of things that there could be, that this game doesn't go there. In the fiction, it didn't get there yet. It just kind of had one foot in the door of like, prosthetics are like, yeah, you're still human. What do you mean? You'd be non-human. I mean, like, or you could take over this construction machine, but like, you'd want to have a body again because you're human. So it's just kind of one foot in the door of these huge concepts that we see other games and mediums have like run. Like, okay, you are a
Yeah.
pig humanoid who has put your body that's in the cloud in space that is now being buzzed into whatever body. And if you die, it's cool because there's more clones. Like we've just gone way far down the road of transhumanism or cybernetics or the designer or the capitalism of cybernetics.
Yeah.
And this is like talking about the big idea of capitalist, cybernetics, but like that you'd have a regular human body. Oh, maybe your arm could flip and there's a gun inside, but these are like still very like just like dipping your toes into where we live today in cyberpunk. So,
Right.
So it's kind of neat how it's retro and trying to define what it is and tell people, no, slow down a little bit. You're going too far. Like it's just over here. People are still plugging in chords and then, frying their brains.
Yeah. Yeah, that is interesting too. Like the difference between like still grappling with like the very early stages of it as opposed to like the full Shadowrun, like you name it, you can do it, also like there's magic and, that like this is definitely a sort of like a smaller subset of that because of the fiction and IP that you're working within, that like you're asking very specific questions.
And I like that about it.
Right.
I like that a lot. And I didn't, when you started actually thinking about making the thing, you're like, wow, this is cool. Like, this is the space I want to be. And I especially like I didn't get like a philosophy minor or anything, but I always loved philosophy. I had some friends in high school. They were like, you're going to grow up to be like that guy. Like, just, always have the wise thing to say. And, and then someone would be like, you probably broke too. But, but it's neat. So when you get something like this every so often, it kind of fits like a lot of your jams,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can make some statements here and I got some cool game design ideas that, and that's just kind of sometimes the answer to your other question is you can't make everyone happy. You don't try to, but you do like begin to hone better understandings of like what people like and what they tolerate and what they appreciate. You don't always nail it, like when things you make, you might even have a really good idea, but the execution is like pretty good, So, but you just go in for like, this is the cool thing. This is what I think it should be. And usually if they like Ghost in the Shell for these reasons, they're going to like the game for these reasons too. So.
Yeah, I just think it's interesting, like trying to navigate, like, okay, like I have these, like this built-in audience of people that really like Ghost in the Shell. I have this built-in audience of people who like Forged in the Dark. Yeah. And then there's also this audience that it's like, they like cyberpunk games, but that those aren't quite the same as either of these two things. And then like kind of bringing that together is like a very interesting sort of like market.
You hope when they play it, they'll
like,
find they'll find the niche in it,
Yeah, definitely,
absolutely.
But like anything philosophical, sometimes it's lost on people. So we'll see.
Yeah. Call to action.
Yeah, like that.
Well, hopefully for the last episode, I'll be able to get Amelia on here with me to banter about this fantastic game and our fantastic guest. It is always wonderful to get her insight after these episodes into how the process had gone and what her thoughts were on the game. But just me here again today. And honestly, I'm thrilled for Pete and everyone involved for how well the Kickstarter has been doing for this game. And I am so happy that it is fully funded and doing really fantastic there. But my goodness, this game looks fantastic. It sounds fun as heck to play. And our characters were fantastic that we made this series. But again, another designer on the show, another fantastic designer behind the scenes discussion, this whole series. Really thrilled to have Pete here. But we do have one more episode left coming out next week. And before I let you go for the day, so that way we can get to that episode much sooner, especially if you're binging the series in the future, we do have some calls to action. First up, with the month of November being pretty notorious for scheduling hardships for myself and Amelia and many others, and to recuperate from the decade of a year that we've had so far in the year 2025, we are planning on taking a break for the month of December to give us more time to plan out some future series, get things rolling for January's series and beyond, as well as give me personally personally a little break from editing so that I can focus on other freelance projects and catch up there. Things have been relatively rough in life lately for the both of us, so this break is much needed and we plan to be back in January. Now, that doesn't mean we won't be doing things like Undying Bonds live streaming sometime in December, so stay tuned to our Discord or social media channels or even our Patreon for when we decide on the next date for that. Next up, the crowdfunding campaign for Ghost in the Shell is doing fantastic right now. They have a bit over a week left of the campaign when this episode releases, and as of this recording, the day prior, they've broken through a number of stretch goals and have a few more to go. So if you want to get in on this campaign before it closes, check it out right now at the link in our show notes. In other calls to action, we would love it if you checked out our C3 Patreon at patreon.com/charactercreationcast. We are still slightly behind on our funding goal to get to that original $160 a month goal. And we would love to order some enamel pins and send them out to our campaign level patrons. If we can get to $200 a month, not only will that unlock yearly subscriptions for our supporters at a discount, it will also mean we can afford to pay Fiona a bit more every month to update the backlog of games on our site as well. We can get there by the end of the year with just a few more campaign level backers. And at the $10 level, you get a lot of wonderful stuff. You get a load of stickers, custom C3 dice, a 3d6 set of those from ChessX, all of our bonus episodes, and a whole lot more. Other tiers have some great perks as well, so check it out if you have a chance at patreon.com/charactercreationcast. In addition to all of that, we like to thank our current patrons every episode. Your support truly helps out a great deal, so let's do that right now. Starting with Lieutenant DJG, aka Tigranosaurus, and Eric Bonds. Many thanks to all of you. Daryl Holiday II, Shadim Cabal, and the Shyest Barbarian, we appreciate your support so much. Thank you. Benjamin Sweeney, Rob Fletcher, and Kevin Brown, thank you all so much. Tentacle Doc, John Adamus, and A3 Sketchpad, we appreciate your support as well. Thank you. Thank you to Carlos Salazar, Eric S., and Ian Popmeyer. We couldn't do this without you. Liam G., Brian Colm, and Garden GM, our deepest thanks. Tanglefoot, Blue Kryptonite, and Danny, thanks so much for believing in us. Nicole Trainer, Liam Murray, and Kenning, thanks for making all of this possible. Brian Kurtz, Mark E. Fair, and Drew Owen, thanks for helping us make the show. Thank you to Oz, Sean Metcalf, and Robert. We couldn't do this without you. And we appreciate your support so much. Kevin Bates, Deadly Edley, and Allison Cole. Thank you all. And thank you to all of our future patrons. If you want to join this phenomenal group of individuals, please head on over to patreon.com/charactercreationcast and help us out. And with more assistance, we'll be able to get those website upgrades to make exploring your favorite games that much easier, and it helps us out tremendously in the process. If you want to join in the discussion with our hosts, some of our guests, and a bunch of fans, including a whole bunch of wholesome and or spicy memes, head on over to our Discord at discord.charactercreationcast.com. Finally, if you want to help us out in another way that doesn't require any money, you can leave a rating and review for our show on Apple Podcasts, Podchaser, or Podcast Addict. We will read every new 5-star review as we get them and as we both have a chance to record together. We are still sitting on one, and hopefully next time we can get that. That's all we have for today's episode. Join us here next time when we finish our discussion series with Pete. Until then, take care, everyone. Stay safe, drink some water, and keep making those amazing people. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for joining us for part 1 of this discussion series. We'll be back in part 2, picking up right where we left off.
Character Creation Cast is a production of the One Shot Podcast Network and can be found online at www.charactercreationcast.com. Head to the website to get more information on our hosts, this show, and even our press kit. Character Creation Cast can also be found on Twitter and Blue Sky at CreationCast, or on our Discord server at discord.charactercreationcast.com. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan Bolter, and I can be found on Twitter and Blue Sky at Lord Neptune or online at lordneptune.com. Our other host, Amelia Antrim, can be found on Twitter and Blue Sky at Ginger Reckoning. Music for this episode is used with a Creative Commons license or with permission from the podcast they originated from. Further information can be found within the show notes. Our main theme music is Hero Remix by Steve Combs and is used with a Creative Commons license. This podcast is owned by us under Creative Commons. This episode was edited by Ryan Bolter. Further information for the game systems used and today's guests can also be found in the show notes. If you'd like to support our show, find us on Patreon. Get access to bonus episodes, exclusive merch, and much more at patreon.com/charactercreationcast. Thanks for joining us. And remember, we find that the best part of any role-playing game is character creation. So go out there and create some amazing people. We'll see you next time.